This is cinematic, isn't it? Hi everyone. Good seeing you. Um, I'll try keep standing here because then I can see you better. Otherwise, I'm being flashed with the lights. My name is Robert. It's so nice that so many of you are here. Why is no one sitting in the first row? There, excellent idea. There are recliner seats in the front. You can basically lie down. Okay. Any guesses what this talk will be about? No guesses. Of course, it's about AI. Okay, let's dive in quickly. Who am I and who I'm here for? I'm working at InnoQ Germany. We are a medium-sized IT consultancy with offices in Munich, Hamburg, Offenbach, Berlin, of course. We work in different sectors. Those are some of our customers. Yes, we are the ones who did the Thermomix software, the recipe platform. Maybe some of you are using it every day. um, all right. This is me, where I'm based. This is my dog. Dogs always bring up a dog in at least one slide. This is what I'm doing besides my work. I'm running the data and AI team, the branch inside of our company. Basically, it's not a branch; it's everything, right? Um, um, on the side, I'm running a German podcast with my wonderful colleague Stephanie. She's also here, and we talk with quite different people about AI, what AI will probably change, what it will transform, not on a technical level, but on a kind of a mainstream level. We had a journalist from the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung as a guest there, a behavioral mathematician, a creative director from Hamburg, and kind of a different mixed set of people. If you're into that, tune in and shoot us a line if you like it. I also run a newsletter since several weeks because lots of colleagues, friends, and customers asked me, Robert, I'm so stressed. I can't follow the AI news stream. It's horrible. I give up. I don't read anything anymore. And I told them maybe that's not such a good idea. Let me work something out to kind of compress it, what happens. That's an experiment I run because the news stream even stresses me out. It's too much for every one of us. I try to sort out the most important stuff that happens in this week, in my view. So maybe it's something for you. It's also in German. This talk is about AI, but on a strategic level. Who's here leading teams? Excellent. Who's here working strategically on a strategic level? Great. Who wants to work strategically? Okay. What I'm trying to do here with you today is to think through some stuff that will transform the organizations we work for, that will transform our work on a strategic level. Because it's so attractive to instantly dive into tactics. Let's do this, let's install this, let's buy this tool, let's get this training. It's very hard for us to stay on a higher level and don't fall into the trap to make decisions instantly. So let's try to ask ourselves some strategic questions, because that's what I find very interesting. And to be honest, I brought more questions than answers for you. So agentic engineering, where are we right now today? Does everyone know what Meter is? It's a publicly funded organization that analyzes state-of-the-art AI models in terms of capabilities, but also potential catastrophic issues. And they found in a report 25 AI years ago in May, I think, they ran a study with very experienced open source maintainers. Those are not people who are new into programming. They are quite senior people. And they gave them Cursor and Claude 3.5. Yes, that's what we had at this time, Stone Age, right? And they asked them, we give you this, and you work on your open source repositories, and you report us what you find out. Are you getting more productive? And they forecasted, the maintainers forecasted them in the first interview, maybe I will reach 24%. They found out that by average, all of them worked 19% slower. How can that happen? There's no very clear answer to that because those were senior people, but technology was new for them. This technology is kind of deep. I mean, everyone nowadays says, I get AI. I chat with ChatGPT daily, I get it. So what's the fuss about? But it's very opaque and it's very, very deep to master. And that was a problem for even senior people in this study. The agentic capabilities weren't there where they are now. So this is kind of interesting when we look at senior people adopting agentic AI. The DORA report is familiar with you? Maybe. DORA is like an organization, a style where Google analyzes on a big scale DevOps productivity, general developer productivity, and they found out in their latest report that 90% of teams now use AI. That's good when it comes to adoption, but adoption is the first step. But the perceived productivity, like what people say, oh, I'm feeling a bit more productive, I'm feeling much more productive, the perceived productivity is up, but the instability in terms of quality rises alongside the throughput. There are way more merge requests than we ever had, but the quality is not always like it's expected to be. And they found out that the biggest gains in agentic software engineering appear only when you follow these 7 steps. They should be easy to follow, right? Clear AI policy. Who has a clear AI policy? Yeah. Okay, we can step out at step 1. Work in small batches. Use strong version control. You have a user-centric focus. That companies try to figure that out since 20 years, how to get a user-centric focus. Do you have a platform for developer productivity? Do you have a healthy data set? Data in terms of context. What's your architecture documentation, your developer guidelines? Is this context, if it's healthy, AI accessible? That's what Google found out. Then there's the third thing, DX, which is a company that focuses on developer experience, developer productivity, and they run a serious business and they conduct studies, I think quarterly nowadays. And they found out, this report came out like 2 days ago, and they found out it's one of the core messages that structured enabled drives measurable return on investment. It's not a tool thing. It's not get an Anthropic subscription, use Claude Code. That's the easy part. And when we want to know where we are standing right now, I always recommend look at what the meta people are doing. Very serious people. And they're kind of independent. And they look at capabilities of state-of-the-art large language models. And we are still on an exponential curve where the task length a state-of-the-art LLM can work on doubles every 6 months. every 6 to 7 months. And exponentials are quite hard for humans to get. Remember COVID? This will stay in China. It's very hard for us to grasp what's next year, what will be in 2 years. It's impossible to understand. If it goes like this. And why is the task length an important factor? Because the task length kind of dictates what an agent, an LLM, can do. If the task length is like 15 minutes, an LLM won't do like a thorough security review. It's impossible on a medium-sized code base. But if it goes to 2 hours or 24 hours or 48 hours, that's where it gets interesting. So if people tell you there's a wall, GPT-5, it basically writes like GPT 4.1. I don't find a difference. It's a foundational technology. It's hard to realize. We are now at the point where it's very hard to realize the advancements in capabilities. So the task length is actually an excellent KPI to look at. See where GPT-5 is. There was kind of a huge jump. So what happens every 6 months is that the task length doubles in effect. And this basically confirms what the labs have been telling us all the time. You could say the labs are the labs. They invent the models, they create the models. Of course, they have to run a marketing campaign. But they always told us, see, the data wall isn't there. We are on a reinforcement learning scale curve, and we are still seeing a doubling in task length every 6 months. And Meter basically confirms this. That's where we are. And when I'm talking with customers, with friends, with colleagues about agentic software engineering, everyone is talking about productivity all day long. It bores me to death. Of course, it's a gigantic lever when it comes to productivity, but why is no one talking about things like ambition? I would never have tried to write a Rust program, never in my life. But I can do it now, I can just do things, right? Maybe they won't be good at the first step or second step. Maybe they won't tomorrow, maybe never. But if I need them, my team needs them, the company needs them, I can do it. I can fix a Linux kernel driver. Never did that. But those are cases that are happening. And who measures those when people measure productivity? Productivity itself is extremely hard to measure. It's a very high academic problem, and people fight over productivity measurement ROIs since many, many years. And in my view, there isn't a final solution. So we should look at productivity, but we should always also look at ambition, I think. And when we look at ambition and things like quality, who's talking about quality? We can have a look at what studies are saying. This very, very decent study from Harvard Business School. It has been ran together with Ethan Mollick and his wife. Should be a familiar name to many of you. Otherwise, if not, please follow this guy. If you follow one guy in AI, make it Ethan Mollick or make it Simon Willison or both. Don't follow me, follow them. And they ran a study which was not about agentic software engineering at all. It was about agentic work, AI in classical non-engineering, non-programming work. And they ran a study at Procter & Gamble with, I think, 760 people over quite a long horizon. And what they found out, the two things, is a single person with AI outperforms a two-person human team without AI in solution quality. They try to invent new products in the Procter & Gamble space, new products, new product strategies and whatnot. And what they also found that AI blends siloed expertise by breaking down those silo walls. You don't talk about tearing down silos when you talk about productivity, right? No one talks about these facets. But I find them quite interesting because what they saw was that salespeople had like a technical context without talking to like a technician, or marketing people had like a sales context, and engineers had like a sales context and whatnot, because those silos tended to blur because the expertise, there was no human gatekeeping of expertise anymore. And that's kind of interesting when we look at the whole problem. But what happens right now is that every company wants to buy agents, onboard agents. I'm hearing from a lot of customers where the big four are engaged. What they are doing right now is they place like 4 monolithic agents in the organizations. We set you up a marketing agent, we set you up a sales agent, and we set you up a big developer agent for your whole development department. Sounds like a good idea, right? What it comes down to is, what is the organization supposed to do with those agents? Working with AI, be it non an agent, is very hard to grasp. It requires a lot of experience. When you have an agent, it multiplies the problem actually. So maybe some of you realize it, but Agentic AI is like an amplifier of strengths, but also of weaknesses. And essentially, it's a mirror of your organization. If your organization is faulty, is broken in some ways, no organization is perfect, it will mirror that. So ask yourself, what does the mirror in your organization currently reflect? Is it like bad policies, a weird quality control procedure? Are there trust issues? Merge requests by juniors cannot be trusted. Stuff like that happens in all organizations. So it basically comes down to, don't treat AI like a tool you can buy. You can buy AI as a tool, as a subscription nowadays. It's like a commodity technology right now. It's a foundational technology, basically like a liquid you can buy. And you pay by used volume. But when your company needs like a liquid to improve, to function, to do work, you gotta lay pipes, right? Or have cups, measurement devices, or tanks, or whatever. It's like electricity, basically. And when I'm talking to people, we ran a workshop, and we found out that we don't have AI use cases. Then I'm like always, you don't have AI use cases? Of course, everyone has AI use cases. What you are having is a focusing problem. Okay, then we will do summarization of reports, of marketing reports. Okay, you can use AI to do text summarization, and it's quite good. But what about the robotic arm in your basement or whatever? Think bigger. That's the problem, actually. So if you want to embrace Agentic AI as an organization, it basically comes down to, how can you use it like iteratively in iterative loops? Remember the Agile Manifesto? And what I'm seeing and what we are seeing at customers at our own company is, when you work with AI agents in agentic engineering, you work in loops. Like, right, there's a tight loop, and maybe there are bigger loops, looser loops. Autocomplete, it's maybe the tightest form of any loop, right? You're sitting in your VS Code, and it makes suggestions, and you press tab, accept, you close the loop. Very, very tight loop. But Agentic AI can do more than autocomplete. So basically on the spectrum of a tighter loop, we do rapid prototyping. A colleague of mine who never went into programming, who can program actually, she's a product owner. She skips using tools like Figma nowadays. She does everything with Cloud Code and Codex. She prototypes for customers. It looks like the customer's UI. Of course, it's prototype software, but she's enabled by that. And she does it on a tight loop. She does, goes to our customer and says, look at this. I had an idea. What do you think about it? Gets feedback, closes the loop, hopefully. It's not the closest of all loops, but it's the tightest of all loops, but it's a loop. The chain of small steps, does anyone know what this is? There are kind of lots of agentic patterns forming right now. There's even a website, I think, Agentic engineering patterns dot whatever, just Google it. Kind of interesting, forming a lot of patterns. Chain of small steps is nothing else than do this, enter. No, it wasn't good, do it the other way. Tush, tush. That's the chain of small steps. It's a very tight feedback loop you're giving the agent. And there's so much more of patterns, of paradigms. When I'm walking the dog, I sometimes have ideas like, oh, we could use this feature. This is so good. Gotta write it down. The notes software. Where's my dictation? The dictation doesn't get me. Nowadays it's quicker to let it implement by Codex async web or whatnot than write the note. Of course, I won't use it in production. Hopefully. But getting ideas formed into software while walking the dog, this is new. And this is a looser loop. It's a bigger loop. It's not the tight loop where I'm sitting in front of my computer and waiting for autocomplete. Deferred prototyping or generate living documentation asynchronously. It's not a pattern, it's a to-do, but those are all on the looser loop of the looser size of loops. Security reviews, best of n. Who does know what best of n is? Implement this feature in 5 different ways. We can do that now. Implement it in 10 different ways. The code is not scarce anymore. But we are still treating this technology like you do this, no, you do this, this was not correct, do it the other way. What about implement it in 5 different ways? We can do it. It shifts the problem because someone has to look at it afterwards. If we have to look at 10 different things, well, being responsible for other stuff. But that's where I'm going at. It's a skill we have to develop. It's a lot about intuition and experience, and we have to build it. So let's re-meet the Agile Manifesto. What does it say? What did it say actually? It didn't say you have to do stand-ups, daily stand-ups. It didn't say you have to do sprint plannings. It didn't say anything about Scrum. It's what we invented, or retros, or demos. It was basically all about feedback loops, collaboration. And when we think about how to work with agentic AI, we can go back to old things and they can help us. That's what I'm saying here. You need continuous feedback. If your agent does not get feedback, be it a successful test run, a build, you yelling, no, I meant it the other way, you have to close the loop. If you don't close the loop, you're basically randomizing it. But you don't want to close the loop on a very tight loop all the time. That doesn't scale. You have to find a way where entering a looser loop is still okay, but make sure to close it every time. So there's basically a spectrum. Like it starts on the left side with a very tight loop. Imagine autocomplete or a chain of small steps. The human stays embedded, you stay embedded, you review every turn. It's a very high cognitive load. You gotta be focused. You can't do this like with 4 agents. Maybe some of you can, I can't. I'm seeing people like Peter Steinberger, who runs 4 codex terminals and always has to focus, but it depends on who we are and if we are able to deal with that. It's a high cognitive load, but it offers maximum control. You don't need maximum control all the time. So when stakes are high and the ambiguity are high and you can tell the agent exactly what to do, but it's very important stuff, choose a tight loop. And when you are able to provide the context on demand, maybe not upfront. You're being there, you're sitting there, right? So be able to give the context. And the other end of the spectrum is the loose loop. You delegate it, you defer it, or you don't delegate by yourself. The agent just listens in the background. Ambient agents is a key word. For domain events, a domain event could be like a new issue has been created with the tag agent. Agent watches, implements the issue, fixes the issue, does a review, whatnot. Or when you're a product person, it watches a folder where user interviews are being placed, analyzes those and proposes experiments for new features. You don't have to be there and say, please propose experiments. You can automate that. You can do it async on a loose loop. But make sure context is in place. Somewhere the agent can find it. When you're on X, you see stuff like this, and I finally ignore the first line. It's not about the right tool nowadays. I don't want to engage in the fight in Claude Code versus Codex. The interesting part is how this person works. I don't think it would work for me, but it seems to work for him. He goes into Codex in the morning, plans his day in linear, has user feedback from the day before or the days before, and kicks off an async agent on 3 to 4 paper cuts. Like small steps, small tries at a new feature, at a bug fix, and whatever. And then he forgets it. And then he enters the tight loop and does deep work. Sits there every turn, engages in very important stuff, high risk stuff. And at the evening, he goes back and the 3 to 4 paper cuts have been implemented. Sometimes, in his case, with an auto review. Basically, it's 4 merge requests and reviews in the evening, where maybe he drained a lot of energy in the high intense deep work session in the midday. You're seeing that it's a wild field how people work. Everyone works differently, and that's totally okay. But I think what he is doing right is he uses different loops, and he makes sure that they are closed all the time. So now what we need to understand and figure out is when to tighten loops or relax those loops. So I brought some strategic questions for you. Not many answers. But the first 2 are, how volatile is the thing you're working on? Is it like a bank credit insurance formula? It's high risk stuff. Maybe choose a tighter loop. Is it like the thing that wouldn't otherwise exist? Choose a loose loop. And what's the freshness of the context? Is the context good enough? Can I provide it on demand? I forgot to tell you, we do it this way. Choose a tighter loop. If the context is in place, choose a looser loop. And where does the trust in your organization live? That's a hard question, actually. Some people are telling me, yeah, we have peer reviews. So everyone who implements a feature needs a merge request review. And I'm like, yeah, it's great, but that is how you define trust? It's a tactic, not a strategy. If your developers, if you don't know if your organization trusts you to enter loose loops to produce stuff you won't look at every line of code, is that okay for your organization? What about software that gets published that replaces an Excel table that has never been thoroughly reviewed? Is that okay in your organization? You got to know, because when you don't know, people will always resolve to a tight loop because they're not feeling trust by their organization to do such things. And lastly, which metrics detect drift in your loops? What's your lead time of new features? What's your fail rate? What I find most interesting is actually don't count loops, don't count merge requests. That's not a KPI, that's a number. Every organization will have more merge requests nowadays because they can produce more in the same amount of time. What's interesting is how many merge requests haven't been closed, are getting stale. How many terminal sessions in Claude Code have been discarded and left with an angry user? That's what you want to look at, unclosed loops. Who does know how truffle tastes? No one? Some people. Can someone describe in one sentence? There's this famous saying by Anthony Bourdain, truffle tastes like a bike accident in the woods. But essentially it comes down to your team needs to know how truffle tastes, because the metaphor truffle is basically like agentic AI. On the surface, it's just a mushroom, right? How should a mushroom taste like a mushroom? But truffle doesn't taste like a mushroom. It's very complex. You can't describe it easily. Some people say earthy, wooden, but it's a very complex taste, and people need to get a grasp to describe this, to learn this, to build intuition. You can't describe complex food when you're new to food. But your people, your teams you're leading have to develop a taste for AI. Otherwise, they can say, let's do it this way, let's skip it, let's don't use AI. It's too deep, it's too complex. And this is a weird new situation for all of us. All the people I'm talking to about, it's weird for me, but we have to build a taste and intuition. And as a bonus, for a technology that doubles in capabilities every six months. It's stressful. AI puts a lot of stress on organizations, on companies, on individuals. But I think it's not an option to resort in, let's wait it out. It will blow over. The genie's out the bottle. It's here to stay. The two people you should follow is Ethan Mollick and Simon Willison. Who follows Simon Willison? Make it one person you follow. He writes such a good blog. He's the creator of the Django Python framework, actually. And nowadays he fiddles around a lot with large language models, develops a lot of software, and he documents nearly every day what he learns, what he finds out. He's a good writer, not hyper technical. Of course, he can be, but I learned so much by reading Simon. It's such a gift what he does. And he was skeptical like 4 months ago. He was always sitting in a tight loop. I want to see every line. It makes me so much more productive, but I want to check every line. And he's saying this after 4 months. It feels kind of uncomfortable for him. He can't articulate it any better. But he develops a feeling, a taste, that he doesn't need to review any line anymore. So what are examples for unclosed loops? There's 4 of them. Drive-by prompting. turn down the window, shoot at Claude Code. Build me this. Everyone did it, right? I did it. A paper cut, best of n development tasks. Never looked. No one looked at them ever. Not in the evening, ever. Unclosed loop. Agent opens refactoring PR. Engineering never reviews it. Product discovery. Agent clusters users' feedback and proposes experiments. Yet product doesn't validate them with customers. Basically, you can do anything, but you have to do it and you have to close the loop, be it tight or loose. So what everything comes down to in agentic software engineering, or agentic engineering in a broader sense, where it's product facets. On the one, it's produce work that's faster to validate than to redo, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. Build things that would not exist otherwise. Ditch the Excel table that people are using and fiddling around with. No one would have tackled that. In which sprint planning would the team say, okay, the thing sitting in the bottom of the backlog since 3 years, let's pull that, let's do that in this sprint. Should be 5 points. Didn't happen. But you can do this stuff nowadays on the side. And always close the loop. This is what agentic engineering should come down to, in my opinion. So I think we're living in the age of the agent orchestrator nowadays. What does that mean for your teams, for your people, if you want to develop skills? What you gotta know is that markets tend to organize around whatever is in short supply. It's an economic basic constant. Expertise will get democratized. Embrace it. But experience does not right now. So it's important for you to have experience, to earn experience, to build up experience, but don't rely solely, don't base your career on your hands' work. Base it on your head's work, because the work you're doing with your hands will get way cheaper and markets won't circle around handwork that more anytime. Basically, it comes down to this, right? John Carmack isn't here, but John Romero is here. It's not always about code that looks like John Carmack has written it. It's not always the case. Sometimes it's okay to engage in a loose loop. And there will still be experts. You will still be experts. Hopefully I will still be an expert. But the baseline skill we have to develop is provide judgment, high-level strategy, and handle the weird cases. That's what you will need humans for. And knowing how to break down on tasks, set a reward, audit a run. Remember reinforcement learning? That's a skill we have to learn. Some say that's a skill that every developer always had to have, right? Even before AI. And basically, your organization's culture eats your strategy. You can make the biggest strategic plans. If you don't create an environment where people are comfortable to engage in loose loops, to build stuff they don't have a mandate for, you'll miss out. And how do you delegate? What kind of feedback culture and agency do you need? You gotta need to surface cultural blockers and tackle them. Fear of loss of control. Lots of developers have fear of loss of control. Sometimes we're seeing engineers in our trainings who want to read every copy message Claude Code writes. They want to understand it to the letter because they have a big fear of loss of control. Shallow feedback rituals. Limited experiential trust. If you're developers, if you don't build experience in shipping actual software with agents, you always will resort to tight loops. And you got to change minds in developers' heads. It's not a hands work. what we are there for. It's our heads work. And our hard skills will get cheaper. They have become multitudes cheaper in the last 2 years, and they will by the day. And you gotta enable autonomy. You gotta build up a sky for people to fly in. There are some companies that have they have built such huge amounts of autonomy where people and developers are free to engage. But no one engages. Why is that? Not all people can deal with an overly big amount of autonomy. That's where agency comes in. Agency is the ability to make use of autonomy. If your people are not agentic, see the parallels, they won't use your autonomy. You can bury them in autonomy. They won't embrace it. High agency people are people taking a risk, are willing to burn their fingers, trying new stuff, engaging in loose loops, try something out. So some people are talking about a great divide. Benefits aren't distributed equally anymore. High agency engineers see outsized gains. What about the juniors? This is something I have to skip over quickly, but where do you sort yourself in that? Actually, in my opinion, it comes down to two axes, skill level and agency. You can't say that juniors are bad or good for agentic engineering, or seniors are by definition good or bad for agentic engineering. Gotta sort yourself in. How do you enable agency? Basically, it comes down to build ladders. Don't force people to be, you gotta be a high agency person. You have to be ready to found a company tomorrow. That won't work. You can't have only high agency people, but it's a spectrum. Drop them into safe loops. Let them earn experience so they can risk more the next day. Rebuild your teams around high agency. What we are seeing in customer projects where teams are using agents all day long, they stand on each other's feet. I think it won't work anymore that you have like a team with a UX designer, UI designer, product owner, and 5 developers. Maybe it will be 1 developer. Because you have to constantly align yourself. Can I get in your way with my agent? Oh no, I'm parking there right now. I have 2 agents working in the same area. It's a mess. And you need to re-architect the whole software development lifecycle actually. How does that look like? I can give you some tactics to close this talk with tactics and not only deal with strategy. Maybe it's a good idea to place this kind of stuff in your developer platform in terms of tactics, concrete stuff you can do. But those 3 things are not the whole picture. Build agent-ready environments. Most important is instrument your loops. Build something, build an agent skill that triggers a call. This loop hasn't been closed. User quit the session, was angry. You gotta instrument it. You won't learn otherwise. Learnings will vanish. Why do we have lots of open, loose loops? Was there less context? Did people feel unsure if they can merge this? What was the problem? You will never learn. At some point in my life, I want to write an O'Reilly book. Maybe it will be this. So when we are enabling and coaching teams in doing this stuff, what I'm seeing is most of the time it's not new. It's software engineering, but like sitting on a rocket, right? But all those practices, writing requirements, do test first, test last environment, is all things we learn in software development, which are actually providing feedback to us and the agents. If we have open feedback loops, it won't work well. So to wrap up, Map where your loops don't close. Enable agency, easy, right? But you gotta tackle two. It's the hard part of the three, and instrument the unclosed loops. Be sure why do people not engage in tighter loops? Why is no one using agents to build 5 different implementations for a cool thing we would have, but for some reason don't have? I think those are the 3 things you gotta tackle. Thank you. I stretched, so there's not much room for questions, but I will be in front of the room if you're in the mood for discussions. Thank you for listening.